girl, Dutchess Kiki. I am coming to you today because I did a live one night and we were all talking, and I talked about how we had got on the subject about my dad, and I had said I wrote down that I should do a video about how God repaired the relationship between me and my dad. This is a testimony of mine that I'm sharing with you right now. I'm going to try to make this video as short as I can, so I might have to cut some parts off of the story. But the video is probably going to be lengthy, but I'm gonna try to cut it short as much as possible, okay? And give you just like the meat of the story. So back when I was in college and I was 19 years old, well, first, when I grew up, I was a daddy's girl. I was a daddy's girl. I've always been a daddy's girl. And one thing about me that people that know me, they're like, you were a daddy's girl and you were a grandfather and grandma girl. And they knew that I was my grandparents' girl first, and then I was my daddy's girl. So they already knew it was my grandparents first, and then I was a daddy's girl. So anyways, grew up a daddy's girl, and always had a good relationship with my dad, and we kind of understood each other. I think that's what it was. And I have a lot of my ways are like my dad's, as far as just my characteristic and the way I handle things and the way I try to stay positive towards things. A lot of that come from my dad, and that's like parts of him in me. I see that I'm more, I look like my mom, but I act more like my dad. So growing up, I was a good daddy's girl, and when I was 19 years old, I was in college, and my dad decided to leave my mom. And when they were married for 21 years, and when he left my mom, it left my mom in a bad state. Like, my mom was just like tore to pieces because he was the love of her life, and they had gotten married when they were 18 years old, and now 21 years later, my dad decided that he didn't love her anymore, and he left. So my dad was the deacon of the church, head deacon of the church overall. He built the church. He basically he's a contractor, so he built physically our church. My granddad, like, he was basically my granddad's right hand man. But my granddad, that was the pastor, that passed away, that was my mom's dad. So that was his in-law, my granddad's in-law, so that was his son-in-law. So, but they were very close. And yeah, my dad just decided that, now I understand, but back then I didn't understand why he had left. And coming home from college on a weekend and seeing her crying, and it, she said he left her. I mean, it was just a lot. It was a lot to deal with. I was a sophomore in college, and it was rough. It was rough. And yeah, so when that happened, it basically, all I see is my mom crying at home when I come home on a weekend from college. And then, I'm not understanding because my dad didn't explain to me and my brother. My brother was young. My brother was young. My brother was like 12, maybe 11 or 12 years old. And yeah, my brother was young, and my mom's, crying, and all I see is that, because my dad didn't pull me and my brother to the side and talk to us and tell us why he was leaving. He just left. And so I looked at that, and looking at it from my standpoint, I just was like, how could he do this? I'm up here blaming him, and my mom couldn't afford to pay the mortgage, so my mom lost the house, and I'm seeing all of this happen, and I'm all blaming my dad, because I'm like, even though my mom was like, my dad was the main source of income, and my mom depended on him a lot, and I didn't like that part of it. I felt like my mom should have been, independent as well, but she depended on my dad like 100%. Okay, 150%. Okay, that's a lot. So seeing it from my point of view, I'm like, so I get angry. I get angry as a 19-year old. I get angry. I get upset. I get angry, and I'm mad. I'm mad. And who am I mad at? I was mad at my dad. And I was mad at my dad because I couldn't understand why he left my mom, at that time. I couldn't understand why he left my mom. And I mean, this is like 1995, 96 time frame, I believe. And it was like, yeah, because I was a sophomore in college. Yeah, it was 1995. And I'm like, can't understand what's going on. Why he left my mom. Why is this happening? I'm getting upset with him. I'm seeing my brother react in other ways because my brother is upset, but he don't know how to handle it. My brother don't know how to handle it. My brother's still trying to keep a relationship with my dad, and my dad was living with the woman he's married with now. He left my mom to move in with the woman that he is married to now. Well, that's what we were told. We were told he was living somewhere else, and then next thing we know, he was living with the woman that he's married to now. So, yeah, it was like a lie, and I'm seeing it from that standpoint. And if he would have just pulled us to the side, we would have understood a little bit better, I think. But I was angry, y'all. I was in an angry state in my life. I was mad, and I was always mad. Like, it was just insane. And so I took it out on my dad, and the rest of my year in college that year, because I was a sophomore, I was getting ready to be a junior. And that next school year, because that happened during the summer of 95. So in the next school year, which was the fall of 95, I stopped talking. Like, I legit didn't talk to my dad. I didn't want to talk to him. I didn't want to, you know, I didn't want to have anything to do with him. I was just completely upset. And so I stopped talking to him. I stopped talking to my dad. And I stopped talking to him for years. It was years. It was years. Thank God nothing happened to him in that time frame or happened to me. But he would call my dorm, my apartment on campus. He would call, and I would tell my roommates, tell him I'm not here. I'm not here. Every time he called, I'm not here. I'm not here. They'd be like, "It's your dad." I'm like, I'm not here. Tell him I'm not here. I would avoid his calls. I would not answer his calls on my cell phone. I would not answer his calls on my campus dorm form. I wouldn't answer the phone. I was just like, I just didn't want to talk to him. So as the years went by, I wouldn't talk to him or his wife. And so as years went by, y'all, I did not start talking to my dad until 2000. In 2000, a month before I found out I was pregnant. Well, let me back up some. In 2000, in September of 2000, I had came home for the weekend. My granddad pulled me in his office after service. And when my granddad pulled me in his office after service, my granddad had a talk with me, and my granddad said, I hadn't, mind you, I hadn't told nobody I wasn't talking to my dad. I hadn't said nothing. I hadn't said nothing to nobody that I wasn't talking to my dad. My roommates knew, but I hadn't told nobody. So I came home for college on that weekend. My granddad pulled me in the office after service, and my granddad says, "Daughter, you need to talk to your dad." And I'm like, he was like, "Your dad haven't told me anything. Nobody's told me anything, but I know you're not talking to him." My grandmother was sitting in her chair on the side. My granddad was at the desk chair. I was sitting on the sofa that was in the pastor's office. And tears just came in my eyes. And my granddad was like, if something happens to him, then it's going to be on your hands. He said, "You don't want it on your hands, do you?" And I was like, "No." He was like, "You trying to go to heaven?" I was like, "Yes." And he was like, "Then you need to talk to your dad. You're going to have to talk. You cannot go on like this. You cannot, not talk to him." And my grandmother just sat there and shook her head in agreement with him. So, with all of that said, I still didn't call and talk to my dad. That was in like that August or September. My granddad put me in the office. I think it was like August or September. I'm thinking he pulling me in the office for something else because at that time I was shacking up. So I'm thinking, if anything, pull me in the office because I'm shacking up. I'm like, if anything, pull me in the office because I'm shacking up, not because I ain't talking to my dad. That's how I felt at the time. That's how I felt at the time. And so months go by, I think 2 months go by, because I think that was August, somewhere in the summer. Months go by. And then October of 1995, something said call. Sorry, October. This is all happening in 2000. So we done left 1995. We're in 2000 when my granddad put me in the office. Then October of 2000, I picked up the phone and I called my dad from my dorm room, my college dorm room, and I called my dad, and me and him talked, but we didn't talk about the situation. He asked me how was school going. I talked about school. I talked about what I was doing. He wanted to know what I was doing for work, and I told him what I was doing. And yeah, my dad legit, and I, from that point, October of 2000, we legit been talking ever since. We got on the phone and we was like, we hadn't even missed a heartbeat. We got back on the phone and was talking, and it took time to rebuild that relationship. The devil tried to tear that relationship down, and we had to rebuild our relationship. We still didn't talk about the issue. We still didn't talk about why you left my mom. And I was talking to him, but I didn't want to have nothing to do with his wife. So I legit didn't want to have nothing to do with, I was talking to my dad, but I didn't want to have nothing to do with his wife because I felt like she was the one that tore my family up. I felt like she was the one that took my dad away from my mom, because word was out on the street that my dad and her was in a relationship and he was cheating on my mom with her, and this is why he left my mom. So I'm looking at that from all the outside, but nobody explained. My dad explained nothing to me. My mom up there, my mom pretty much, heartbroken and everything. But my mom, I'm looking at her and I'm seeing her heartache, and then I'm looking, so the anger had been there for years. I had harbored and I was stubborn and had that anger for years, to the point that it affected my relationships with men that I were involved with. It affected my relationship with men that I was involved with, because by the time 2000 comes, like I said, I'm now in a relationship, and I was in a relation. That was when I was with my son's father. And so I'm legit like, don't know how, I'm letting my family life affect my relationship. But my point is, like, when I was in my 19, 20, 21, I was engaged to somebody. When I was 21, I wasn't talking to my dad at that time, and I was engaged. My dad never knew. I never talked to him, never told him. And I was engaged, but because of what happened with my mom and my dad, I wouldn't set a date because I was like, I don't want to be dependent on a man. I don't want to be dependent on, you know what I'm saying? I was like, watching my mom go downhill when my dad left because she was totally dependent on him. And I was like, I refuse to depend on a man and he leave me and I have nothing. How God mended the relationship is, once I called him in that October, me and my son's father was having problems. And that September, before I called my dad, I had gave my son's father 2 weeks to get out. I was done. I didn't want to be in the relationship anymore. We had been together for 5 years, and for 4 years at that point, and I just didn't want to be in the relationship anymore. And I was not happy. I felt like he was cheating on me, and I just was not happy. So that was September. My son's father still hadn't moved out in October. He said he needed a little bit more time to find somewhere to go. So I was like, fine. So in that time, God started dealing with me, and he was like, call your dad. And that's when I called my dad, and I talked to him, and we were fine. We were good. We talked, but there was no apologies. There was no apologies like, I should have told you and your brother what happened between me and you, why I left your mom. It was none of that, and I didn't bring it up. He didn't bring it up. We just talked like everything was fine. So then November of 2000 comes, and I'm getting sick, and I don't know why I'm sick. And I find out, well, I wasn't sick, but my breasts were hurting, and I didn't know why my breasts were hurting. And then I find out that I was pregnant. So I found out I was pregnant the Thanksgiving weekend of November, because on Thanksgiving Day I had an alcohol beverage, and my legs were like numb, and I didn't know what was going on. Coming to find out, I was pregnant. So that was Thanksgiving weekend of that in 2000. So I didn't tell my dad that I was pregnant. I didn't tell nobody. The first person that I called, once I got confirmation, because I ended up making a doctor's appointment. Once I got confirmation that I really was pregnant from the doctor office, because the first thing I said when I found out I was pregnant was, my granddaddy and my grandma are going to kill me. I didn't even care about my mom and my dad. My grandma and my granddaddy are going to kill me. So, of course, the daddy's still living with me at this point. He's still not out yet. I wanted him gone, and he begged so we can work it out. And I didn't want to be in the relationship. So I found out I'm pregnant. He's overjoyed. He's ecstatic. He's happy. The person that can't keep a job, he was happy, ecstatic, and all that good stuff. And then he begged me for us to stay together stay together, and we stayed together again. I went ahead because I was pregnant. He wanted to give it a chance to work it out. So I was like, okay, as like a big dummy. I was like, okay. And so I called my dad in January of 2001, and I tell my dad that because I told my mom on New Year's Eve night, after we came from the service, that I was pregnant, and we were home at my grandparents' house, and we were there. And that's when I told my mom that I was pregnant. And she was like, well, you knew that was going to happen when you knew you was living with, when you had that man, when you have that man living with you, yada, yada, yada. I was like, okay, mom, all right. Like, I finally tell my dad that I'm pregnant, and I tell him, and I call him up in January, and he was like, well, your mom called and told me. And I was like, really? Like, I wanted to be the one to tell you. And he was like, yeah, she called to tell me. And I was like, I was so upset. I was just like, because I wanted to tell my dad, and my dad didn't want to talk to her. Like, why would you call and tell my dad? And because did you think that was going to make y'all get back together? Like, what? Anyway, so to tell you honestly, me and my dad have been constantly talking ever since 2000, October of 2000, and God mended our relationship back together. We now can talk. I talked to him last night. We talk on the phone like he is just like my best friend. Like, we talk on the phone, and we laugh, and we talk, we laugh, all of that good stuff. We converse well. Like, my dad, like, we just talk, and he listens. And when I ask for advice, he gives me advice. So it's our relationship. When God mended our relationship back together, he mended it back together strong. He mended it back together good. And it's been, and then when I had my son, my dad came, 2001 July. My dad came to the city I was living in, drove 2 hours to get to me, and was at the hospital was at the hospital. I still wasn't talking to his wife, but he was at the hospital. He showed up, and he's been a huge, big part of my son's life ever since I had my son. My son is like his joy. Like, my dad is just overjoyed with, this is his first grandson, and my dad, like, really is a part of his life. As far as his wife, I did not start talking to her until a couple of years after I had my son. The Lord dealt with me with that. And the Lord dealt with me. I didn't deal with that situation till after me and my son's father broke up. That's when I started a relationship with my dad's wife. And that's when she and I just, when I called the house one day, when she answered the phone, I said, when I had said hello and she answered, she was like, let me get your dad, let me get your dad. I was like, no, 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 wait. And I said, how are you doing? And she was like, I'm fine. Like, she was just like shocked. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, and after that, she and I started building a relationship as she's my stepmom, like she's my dad's wife. And we started building a relationship, and God started dealing me with, I don't know if it's because God was leading me into ministry at that point, but God started dealing with me and mending the relationship with me and her, because she was a part of my dad's life. She makes my dad happy, and so therefore she's have to be a part of me and my son's life. And after that, now she and I, me, her, and my dad hang out, and we like all like we all hang out, and it's like we one big happy family. And she welcomes me at her home, and I welcome her here when they come over here, well, before Corona, when they were coming over here. And it's the way that God mended all of our relationship, me, my dad, and his wife. The way that God mended that, I know that it was nobody but God. And God mended us back together, because I was there when I wasn't talking to my dad, y'all. It hurt me so much. I was, oh my gosh, I was so hurt, y'all. I was so hurt. I was just like, and I couldn't even get my own personal relationships together because of the way that my dad and I were, and I couldn't get my life together. But I thank God every day that He built us back together. What the enemy tried to destroy, that God mended it tighter than it's ever been. The devil tried to destroy me and my dad's relationship, but God mended it back together. God mended it back together, and He made us stronger. My dad is my support system when I need to talk. My dad is there to listen when I need to cry. My dad is there to listen when my dad has been there. Him and his wife. So I hope this encourages somebody out there. If you're not talking to your dad, if you're not talking to your mom, please, please get it right. Mend it together. And now that I'm grown, I understand why my dad left my mom. That's a whole nother video. I didn't understand then because I didn't know what was going on. But through the years, through situations, my dad has explained to me and my brother, he had to go. He had to go. So he said, he told us why. All we you have to mend those ties. You have to mend those relationships. You can't keep going on, because if something happens to that person, God is going to hold you responsible. God is going to hold you responsible for what is taking place. God is going to hold you responsible if something happens to that person. I'm glad my dad didn't die, or I didn't die, and we didn't mend it together. I'm so glad we mended our relationship. I'm so glad that God came in the midst of our relationship. Anything I do when before Corona happened, if I had to go do something, if I had to go sing somewhere, speak somewhere, anything, my dad was there, because God built our relationship stronger than it has ever been. And when I tell you it was nobody but God, because this girl right here, she was a stubborn one. Okay? I was stubborn, y'all. Stubborn and mean. When I tell y'all how God delivered me, when I tell y'all how God delivered me, if you come at me on a chat, I just blow you off now. God really changed me, because the old me would have told you up. The old me would have let you have it. But I thank God that that's no longer. I thank God that God has changed me. I thank God that God has mended and molded me, and allowed me to be, talk to his wife and have her be friends, just have that connection. God did it. I don't take the credit. It was all God. So if you're not talking to your family members today, my suggestion to you is get it right. Especially if you're trying to make it to heaven, get it right. If you ain't trying to make it to heaven, then go ahead to hell, and go ahead and take, you ain't got to talk to them. Do what you want to do. But if you're trying to make it to heaven, I dare you to mend that relationship with your parent that you're not talking to. Mend that relationship. And I promise you that God will honor you. God will bless you. God will respect that. So that is how God healed the relationship between me and my dad. I've learned a lot, but that is how God healed my relationship with him, with me and my dad, and even his wife. I had to build a relationship. He didn't mend mine with her. Me and her had to basically build a relationship from scratch, and that wasn't easy overnight either. But it's done, and we are all good, and we are all like, we're family. She's part of my family, and I tell her, you're my you're family. You are family. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope it encouraged someone out there that's going through a time, regardless of what our parents do, we still have to forgive. We have to forgive them. We have to forgive them, and God is holding us accountable. So with that said, don't forget to thumbs up the video. Don't forget to subscribe and be the best you that you can be. I'll talk to you guys later. Hasta mañana. Bye.